It begins like a whisper, one we've been waiting to hear for years. The screen fades in, the music swells, and suddenly, there it is. Dragon Age, the Veilguard, BioWare's long-awaited return to Thedas. But as the title burns across the screen, one question lingers, quiet but sharp. Is this the return we've been hoping for, or just another illusion? This isn't just a new game. For many, it's a test of trust, a challenge to hope again. After missteps like Anthem or the divisiveness of Inquisition, expectations are tangled. Nostalgia versus reality, love versus letdown. And now that it's finally here, the question isn't just, is it good? But does it still feel like Dragon Age? No early copy, no filters, just a player stepping into the unknown the moment the game went live. And as the world opened up, I couldn't help but ask myself, what if this isn't what we remember? What if it's something else entirely? There's beauty, there's spectacle. But under it all, a flicker of something quieter. A doubt, a hope, a pull that says, keep going. See for yourself. So let's do exactly that. Let's step into the Veilguard. Together, 1 hour, one sword swing, one uneasy choice at a time, and see what lies beneath the polish. Welcome to Before You Buy. The first hour of Veilguard is like being handed a beautifully wrapped gift. You can't help but feel excited. The visuals hit you right away. Sweeping camera shots, atmospheric lighting, cinematic flair. The world is undeniably BioWare. It feels familiar, almost comforting. Characters crack quips, danger looms on the horizon, and the orchestral soundtrack kicks in just at the right moment. You think to yourself, okay, maybe they pulled it off. But the more I played, the more I noticed something was missing. Not in the graphics, not in the controls, but in the soul. That signature Dragon Age tension, the push and pull of tactical decisions, the weight of your choices, feels diluted. Instead of deep systems to sink your teeth into, you get fast-paced. Action, cooldowns, flashy moves. Combat is responsive, sure. But if you're someone who grew up on Origins, where every fight felt like a chess match soaked in blood and consequence, this new pace might feel like BioWare trading subtlety for spectacle. That's not to say it's bad. Far from it. Veilguard is polished, slick, easy to pick up, but it walks a very safe path. And in a franchise known for its bold storytelling and genre-defining depth, that caution leaves a lingering aftertaste. It's like watching a fireworks show from behind glass. You can still see the light, but you don't quite feel the heat. And as the dust settles from that first encounter, one thought keeps echoing. Is this Dragon Age evolving, or playing it too safe? It all begins, predictably, with a rupture in the sky. A tear between worlds, the awakening of long-forgotten elven gods, and the creeping spread of blight and corruption across the land. Thedas is in trouble. Again. And like any good fantasy, epic, it falls to you, and a ragtag group of allies, to stop it. You play as Rook, a completely customizable protagonist who feels less like a legendary hero and more like the new kid showing up late to a party already in full swing. And yet somehow it works. You're not some grand chosen one, at least not yet. You're a wild card dropped into the chaos, and it adds a strange kind of charm to the whole thing. Now let's talk character creation, surprisingly robust. Within minutes, I had basically recreated Link from Zelda, if he got lost and woke, up in the wrong franchise. Whether you're going for rugged, elegant, or slightly unhinged, the tools are there. And the voice acting? Genuinely solid. Rook feels like they belong, whoever you choose them to be. But here's where it gets weird, in a good and a not-so-good way. Despite the apocalyptic stakes, the tone of the story is relaxed. Characters toss out witty one-liners mid-crisis, banter over burning landscapes, and shrug off world-ending events with a kind of breezy optimism that feels more Saturday morning cartoon than dark fantasy epic. It's not necessarily bad, it's just unexpected. You're saving the world, sure, but you're doing it with a wink and a smirk, not a sword raised in tragedy. There's an undeniable warmth here, like BioWare wants you to feel welcome, even when everything is falling apart. And maybe that's the point. This isn't Origins. it's not trying to be. The question is, are you okay with that? From the moment your boots hit the battlefield, Veilguard makes it clear. It's not here to turn combat into a numbers game. This is real-time, hands-on, action RPG stuff. Think heavy swings, quick dodges, perfectly timed parries, and an arsenal of cooldown-based skills that light up the screen with cinematic chaos. You start by picking one of the classic RPG trinity: warrior, mage, or rogue. I went rogue because who doesn't want to dual-wield daggers and flip through fireballs like a fantasy ninja? And early on, it's a blast. The attacks are smooth. Animations? Slick. Enemy hits feel crunchy in all the right ways, and the moment-to-moment action rewards aggression, movement, and timing. The visual feedback is loud, in a good way. Sword trails blaze, spells ripple through the air, and your companions shout call-outs in the middle of battle, which is endearing. Until it starts to feel like a crowded group chat in a war zone. But underneath all the flash, there's a surprisingly solid foundation, and one mechanic in particular stands out: the primer and detonator system. Here's how it works. Certain skills prime enemies for status effects, and if you follow them up with the right detonator ability, from you or an ally, you trigger bonus effects like extra stagger, AoE explosions, or massive burst damage. It's the kind of design that rewards teamwork and timing, and when it all comes together mid-battle, it feels good. Not just effective, satisfying. Still, like any system built around cooldowns, repetition can creep in. Once you settle on your favorite rotation, it's easy to fall into the same patterns. The combat doesn't force adaptation as much as it invites it, offering complexity if you're willing to explore. There's room to grow through the game's layered progression system. Skill trees are large and surprisingly flexible, offering passive boosts, active skills, and a few neat specialization branches. Add in rune upgrades and ultimate abilities, and there's a decent sandbox to play in. Just don't expect a revolution. This isn't reinventing Dragon Age combat, it's streamlining it. Sharper, faster, and more in line with modern action RPGs. It won't change your world, but it won't waste your time either. Thedas still knows how to turn heads. There's something magical about wandering into a towering cityscape or a windswept ruin and suddenly feeling like you've stepped into a painting that's alive. Veilguard doesn't just toss environments at you, it curates them. The large-scale areas, especially the cities, are visual set pieces. They feel purposeful, designed to awe. And often, they succeed. I found myself stopping mid-quest more than once. Not because I was lost, but because I wanted to be. Grand archways, strange monuments, swirling skies. These aren't just backdrops, they're invitations. Scattered. Throughout are lore tidbits, hidden loot, and optional paths that give exploration just enough flavor to feel rewarding. That said, not every path is thrilling. The more linear zones, especially in quest-heavy segments, can lean into that classic formula. Flip a lever, double back, open a door, repeat. Functional, but rarely inspired. Still, when the world is allowed to breathe, when it stops hand-holding and just lets you wander, Veilguard clicks into place. It may not be the most sprawling fantasy map out there, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in style and intention. And in those moments, when the light hits the stone just right and the score swells faintly in the distance, you feel it. That old BioWare magic. Let's talk about loot because, well, you kinda have to. Veilguard checks the boxes when it comes to inventory management. Gear comparison, snappy, quick equip, convenient. But here's the thing. Most of what I picked up just didn't make me feel anything. It works. It does the job. But that pulse of excitement you get when you crack open a chest and find the item? Rare. Too rare. Thankfully, there's transmog. And it does exactly what you hope. Lets you keep the stats but swap the style. So even if you're wielding a dagger that was technically better 5 hours ago, at least you look like a legend doing it. My rook? A fashion-forward rogue with style to spare. Most of this gear management happens at the Lighthouse, your cozy, mystical home base. It's more than just a menu hub. It's where you catch your breath. You can customize your room, buy random trinkets from merchants, and, of course, have those classic BioWare companion chats. It's warm, familiar, and gently personal. No, it's not a revolutionary system, but it adds that subtle, intimate layer, one that longtime fans will recognize immediately. A place where gear may be forgettable, but connections are not. Let's be real. For a game this big, Veilguard runs surprisingly smooth. I played on PS5 using performance mode, and while you do trade a bit of resolution for frame rate, the payoff is worth it. The game stays buttery even during chaotic battles, packed with particle effects and screen-shaking explosions. No stutters, no sudden frame drops, just clean, consistent action. Visually, it doesn't aim for hyper-realism, and that's actually a good thing. The art style leans stylized, with bold color palettes and a soft, almost dreamlike haze that gives the world a slightly surreal fantasy vibe. Some folks might find it a little too cartoonish, but I found it charming, like stepping into a living graphic novel. And the best part? No bugs, no hard crashes, no janky animations or T-poses haunting the horizon. In today's launch day landscape, that alone feels like a small miracle. Stylized, stable, and smooth. I'll take that any day. Now here's where Veilguard starts to lose its footing, at least for me. Yes, you get dialogue choices. You can play Rook as the noble hero, the sarcastic outsider, or the gruff no-nonsense type. But it doesn't really matter. No matter what tone you pick, the response from the world feels the same. Characters nod, shrug, or banter back with identical ease, like they're reading from a script that doesn't quite acknowledge what you just said. And those big defining moral crossroads? I'm still waiting to hit one that made me stop and think. No gut punch decisions, no pause the game and stare at the screen kind of choices. Just different shades of polite disagreement. For a studio that built its reputation on unforgettable choices, on moments that haunted you long after the credits, this feels like a noticeable pullback. Rook might look how you want. They might sound how you want. But the journey feels more like a tour bus than a path you forge yourself. Could that change later in the game? Sure, and I hope it does. But based on what I've played so far, the illusion of choice doesn't cut as deep as it used to. It's still engaging, still charming, but the emotional stakes that once defined BioWare's storytelling feel oddly muted here. Like the volume's been turned down on what should be the game's most powerful moments. And that, for a Dragon Age game, hurts just a little. So, where does the Veilguard land? For me, it's somewhere in the middle. Solid, safe, enjoyable. It's not the triumphant return to form that longtime fans may have dreamed of, but it's also far from the crash and burn we feared after. Anthem. In a time when RPGs either try to reinvent the wheel or buckle under their own ambition, Veilguard chooses a quieter path. It's a game that plays things close to the chest. It gives you flashy combat, beautiful environments, charming characters, and a few familiar BioWare touches. But the soul, the emotional weight, the gut-wrenching choices, the feeling that you are shaping the story, just isn't as sharp as it used to be, and maybe that's okay for some. If you're here for cinematic flair, stylish RPG-light mechanics, in a world that's nice to get lost in for a while, this might be exactly what you need. But if you were waiting for Origins 2.0, you'll want to adjust your expectations. Still, that's just one take. Mine, I want to hear yours. Did the Veilguard live up to the hype for you? Or did it fall short of what you hoped? You know, not every game has to be a masterpiece. But when it carries the Dragon Age name, it has to mean something. And the Veilguard, it meant something. Not because it was flawless, but because it dared to try. It stumbled, sure. It played safe. But beneath the simplicity, there were moments. Tiny arcs, where I felt what BioWare once made us feel. Maybe that's not enough for you. Maybe it is, but I'll leave you with this. In a world full of hype and noise, what matters most isn't perfection. It's honesty. And that's what this review was. Honest. Now it's your turn. Did Veilguard move you? Did it let you down? Or did it, quietly, remind you why you fell in love with RPGs in the first place? Let's talk. Let's feel. Let's remember what games are meant to do. Like, comment. Share this with someone who's still on the fence. And most importantly, don't stop hoping. The next masterpiece might be just one more game away. Thanks for watching. This is Before You Buy. See you next time.